What's going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel, and as always, yeah, you guessed it, happy Friday. Today we're back for another episode of the Inner Sea region, a 5-minute tour over the next 3 weeks, unless I happen to get a bunch of requests. Oh, by the way, if you have any requests for any of my video series, feel free to throw them in the comments and we'll get right on them. We're going to drift down the eastern edge of Garund and brown this country out for good. We'll take them from the top down, and so today we'll be talking about the nation of Nex. Before we do that, though, quick shout out to our patrons. This episode of the Inner Sea region, a 5-minute tour, was brought to you in part by the Inn of Planar Crossroads. Guys, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for your content. Thank you for dragging me along on all your adventures. And oh, hey, by the way, guys, if you'd like to participate in a one-shot, they're giving one away over on their channel right now. If you'd like to throw your hat in the ring for the one-shot, you can click this card right here to be directed to the giveaway video. Nex is a cosmopolitan realm on the southeastern coast of Garund. It was established by the mighty wizard king Nex, who vanished 4,000 years ago. The nation grew up around the ancient city-state of Quantium. With the emergence of the legendary archmage Nex during the Age of Destiny, Quantium experienced a rapid rise in power and soon dominated the surrounding area. In -892 AR, Nex's territorial ambitions brought him into conflict with Geb, the neighboring kingdom to the south. Thus began Nex's legendary conflict with the Necromancer that would change both wizards and their nations forever. The war between these two nations lasted over 1,000 years, as each had found methods of greatly prolonging his life. Geb's magic devastated the land of Nex with powerful necromantic magic. The cities were protected, but the rural areas became a barren wasteland that remains to this day. The land between the two nations became so thoroughly contaminated by their fighting that it was permanently transformed into the spell-blighted desert known today as the Mana Wastes. Facing starvation, Nex enlisted the aid of the renegade druid Goris to create a new form of plant life that could survive the blighted landscape. These plants did indeed sustain the population of Nex, but over the centuries evolved into a sentient plant creature, which we talked about right over here, called the Gorin. In the waning years of the conflict, Nex unsuccessfully besieged Absalom in 166 AR, creating in the process the famous Spire of Nex, and gained control of the island of Jalmaray in 253 AR. The Archmage eventually gifted Jalmaray to the legendary Maharaja of Vudra Kibin Sald, as we talked about in our Jalmaray video. You can watch that right up here. In 576 AR, Geb launched a potentially decisive attack on Quantium, covering Nex's capital in a lethal fog, which killed thousands of its citizens. Nex fled into the demiplane known as the Refuge of Nex, and has not been seen since. The Lesser Wizards of Nex somehow managed to keep Geb from conquering the country in Nex's absence, and the war eventually petered out. Over time, an uneasy truce was brokered, and eventually trade was established between the two nations. Today, Nex imports most of its food from Geb, as its own land still hasn't recovered from the devastations of the war. So the thing about having a country that's ruled by an archmage, or really any single person, is that when that person disappears, the country tends to go into chaos. And that's exactly what has gone down in Nex ever since Nex himself disappeared. Nex's rule had been unquestioned, but when he disappeared, the country, like I said, fell into chaos. Since then, a variety of strange sects, arcane cabals, and cults of personality have ruled the country, each claiming insight into what the Archmage's plans were for his abandoned nation. The external threat from Geb finally united the country enough to spur the creation of the Council of 3 and 9. A ruling body which still tries to unify the various squabbling factions. Despite the existence of the 3 and 9, Nex's current government is mired in bureaucracy and political infighting. Despite these weaknesses, Nex has never been conquered, and there are no signs of the Council of 3 and 9 faltering. Some factions, most notably the Archlords of Nex, clamor for a resumption of the war against Geb on the grounds that it must surely be the will of the Archmage to destroy his ancient enemy. The Archlords of Nex claim to be descended from Nex's household servants, and thus they seek to further Nex's wishes in the modern world. They identify his opinions based on their interpretation of the various diaries, notes, and scrolls that Nex himself left behind, although some of these works are of dubious authenticity. As if that weren't enough power for any aspiring spellcaster, and as if we really needed to mix PCs in this, Nex is also home to the largest assembly of arcanists in the Inner Sea region. They are drawn there by its magic-friendly government and its unparalleled magical resources. Some of these individuals come to Nex to study the dead magic zone of the Mana Wastes, hoping that exploration of the area will lead to a breakthrough in their understanding of the fabric of magic itself. So yeah, there's the adventure hook if you ever need it. Just grab all the spellcasters and say, hey, let's go do spellcastery stuff, and we'll all take like 45 minutes in between turns in combat to memorize our spellbooks over and over again. But yeah, whatever, it'll be fun. Of course, all places in the Inner Sea region have a real-world equivalent, and though Nex isn't as cut and dry as, like, Osirion is to Egypt, as the lands of the Lenorm kings is to Scandinavia, we've still got it here. Rather than being compared to an ancient country, Nex is instead the homeland of the world's now missing greatest wizard. Think Gandalf, think Saruman before he went all crazy, think Dumbledore in Hogwarts, it's that kind of thing. Golarion is a very magical place, and Planet Earth's stories are also very magical in nature. So on both counts, it's important that we have something physically tangible that we can reach out and grab. Because really, would our spellcasters be happy if Golarion was missing someplace like Nex for them to go study, and a great archmage like Nex himself to look up to? Yeah, no, I didn't think so. But I digress. What do you guys think about Nex? Have you ever traveled here? Have you ever played a character who aspired to join the Arc Lords of Nex? Or have you ever played a Goron, you know, one of those little super yummy, tasty guys that we talked about in the Forgotten Race review? If so, let me know in the comments below and we'll keep the conversation going. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. The next episode of the Inner Sea region, a 5-minute tour, drops next Friday.